Thank you for your interest in the Retained Recruiter show powered by iIntro. Before the show starts, I have a small favour to ask of you. Our goal is to provide you with the most insightful, helpful and practical recruitment knowledge and know-how from the best in the recruitment industry. If you like this channel and enjoy watching our content, hit the subscribe button to get notified as soon as we upload a new episode. Thank you again, and as ever, we're rooting for your success. Now, time for the show.
Hi there, everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you're watching from, and welcome to the Retained Recruiter show with myself, Joe Gregory, and James O'Brien has been replaced by a much more improved model. For those of you who don't know, this is Plamen Ivanov. Hello, Plamen. How are you doing today?
Hi, everybody. Hi, Joe.
Good to see you. So James is off this week, so we've been left to our own devices. I thought, what better person to bring on than the co-founder and chairman of iIntro. I'm going to do you a proper introduction now, Plamen. Are you ready? And I've written it down because I want to make sure that I get this right. So, Plamen Ivanov is the co-founder of Grass Greener, which is a 100% retained search firm. Also co-founder and chairman of iIntro. And of course, that's how we know each other and have known each other for a few years. Plamen's been in recruitment now for just over 17 years. Working with recruitment businesses all over the globe, pretty much every single sector. In that time, has also written a number of short ebooks on the subject of recruitment, which we're going to talk about a little bit later on. One book in particular, which is how we met, I remember, is having a conversation about this book at the Rec Expo in London, controversially called The Death of Contingency Recruitment, and that was brought out in 2017. And since then, you've had a number of ebooks. Plamen is passionate about Italian wines, cycling, travel, probably in that order, but also recruitment as a whole. And that's what we're here to talk about today. Now, we've got a pretty big title here, Plamen: Why Transactional Recruitment is Failing and What You Need to Do to Survive. So we're going to talk about transactional recruitment firms, what we think they're doing wrong, what we think they need to do to survive, and then we're going to talk about those ebooks as well. And we're going to try and fit it all into a very short period of time. And now I've done programs like this with Plamen before. Plamen is a bit of a drifter. So what we mean by that, Plamen, by your own admission, what we mean by that is that one subject could turn into 25 very quickly, couldn't it?
Yeah, I'm counting on you, Joe, to keep bringing me back on track.
Well, I mean, don't count on me because James, I like to go off on a tangent as well. So, but we've got a plan and we're going to try and stick to it. We've got quite a few people watching today, so that's brilliant. Hello to everybody. Lewis, Dennis, Brad, nice to see you guys. Thanks very much. Please do, as we go through, if you hear anything you like, do like it. Please pop your questions and your comments in the comments section, and I will try to keep a track of those as we go through as well. Right. Let's start with the first question. So, just over 17 years in recruitment. I think that's an incredible tenure. In that time, Plamen, how do you think recruitment has changed?
Oh, good question. And now, before I answer it, what I'd like to do is to ask the audience to do something. Now, today, I'm not going to give you the 7 steps to do X, Y, Z, or the 3 the 3 tips to resolve another problem. Today is a very much conceptual discussion, and it probably is a topic that everybody knows, understands. It's like the Rubicon. It's like everybody comes to a point where they say, I'm frustrated with what's going on, but I'm accepting the status quo and I keep going.
Yeah.
And my job today is, well, I'll try and share it with you as best as I can, is what my understanding is as to what's happening in recruitment and what's the big problem, what's the elephant in the room. And hopefully that will give everybody some food for thought to consider how and what they need to do in order to change. But change is a must now. And if you don't change, you know what happens. So going back to your question, just think of it. I mean, some of the people that are on this show and that will be listening either now or later, have been in recruitment for many years.
Mm.
And I always ask the same question: what's changed in recruitment? And if you ask an employer or a recruiter that's been around for a while, they'll say, well, a lot has changed. But actually, if you think of it, in the good old days, recruitment used to be an advertising in the Sunday Times or the big papers.
Yes.
And you used to pick up a check from the client or the advertising, which you made some commission on. And then once you got the adverts, then you pass on the potential candidates, i.e. through CVs, to the client. So we used to fax these to the clients. Now, email came along, so we started to email these. And subsequent to that, we've got now more technology that enables people to do it in a more interesting way, either through ATS, CRM systems, various other tools that engage people. But if you think of it, what's changed?
Mm-hmm.
We're still finding candidates and we're sending them to the client.
Yes.
And that is what I describe as transactional recruitment. Because this is the transaction. Regardless of how you dress it up, bottom line is that our clients, in our client psyche and in the recruiter psyche, our job is client has a need, we'll go to market, we'll find 3 candidates potentially or whatever, and send them to the client. As soon as the candidates are being passed on to the client, the transaction is sort of concluded, broadly speaking, and further down the line, the recruiter continues to facilitate as best as possible. Now, if you think of it, that's pretty basic, especially if you're starting to think of technology. Over the past few years, identifying candidates has become easier and easier. Finding who they are, obviously engaging them is a different step, but regardless, identifying candidates is easier. So think of it from a client's point of view. What does that mean? They're saying, well, I've got so much choice at this moment in time available to me to find candidates. And some clients are starting to build in-house teams. They've always had them, but now they're saying, I don't want to pay to recruiters anymore to build up my team. Some others are using job boards. Some others are using special tech that enables them to identify these candidates and bring them on board. So all these things are basically substitutes to the transaction that recruiters typically supported and got paid well in the past. Now, of course, we do more. And you can dress it up as much as you want, but bottom line is that the transaction is the same transaction that happened 20, 30, 40 years ago when recruitment was born.
Yes, so exactly.
That's the reason why I believe change is a must. So the best question, I suppose, next is, how do you change? What do you need to do to change?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it does. Do you know what? And it's very, anyone listening to this, it's very obvious, but very rare in recruitment to think like that, isn't it? You know, so and I love the analogy. I remember faxing CVs over. I remember running around through the town, you know, delivering CVs to people. So that the method of moving bits of paper around might have advanced, but as an industry, we haven't advanced our selection processes. We haven't advanced the way in which we recruit. And I think that you're absolutely right. You know, transactional recruitment, bits of paper. So moving bits of paper from one place to another, that's what we're talking about today. So that is where in your ebook, you talk a lot about that, don't you? So the death of contingency recruitment really does rely on, you need to stop thinking about recruitment as being CVs and job specs, bits of paper and bits of paper.
Yeah. The next question is ultimately, if you think of it, the consequence of that, with all the new technology and everything else that's happening, gradually recruiters are being squeezed out of the process, and this will continue to be the case. I know you probably say that it's not the time, and contingency or transactional recruitment will continue to be delivered, but there is clear evidence. For example, according to the REC trend surveys, you can see that how recruitment fees have actually decreased over the years.
Yeah.
The client engagement has become more difficult. The fill rates of recruiters that are experienced have actually decreased. Before, if you pick 1 or 2 jobs, you probably fill 1 or 2 jobs. I've spoken to someone yesterday, and the gentleman was saying to me, they're currently working on, say, 10 roles, and they fill 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is terrible. Think of the inefficiencies and everything else. So, common sense here. What is it that recruiters need to make in terms of choice? Well, I personally believe that there are 2 options. Well, more than 2, but say perhaps 2 that are standing out. You either become more efficient in your service delivery, and that basically is you can become as much efficient as possible. But if you think of it, transactional recruitment is typically based on trading time for money.
Mm-hmm.
You only have some limited time, so you can improve your efficiency in terms of time as there is a ceiling. Now, if you just fast forward it a little bit, think of it, what's the alternative option? The alternative option is to actually change the service. Allegedly, 90% of the industry does transactional recruitment.
Mm-hmm. People
Exchange CVs for money. And what do the other 10% do? If you think of it, the service as it being transactional, as we described it a moment ago, needs to change by actually extending the service beyond candidate identification.
Yeah.
So the biggest problem that exists in the marketplace is not how fast the clients will employ or how cheap they will employ. The biggest problem is employing the very right person. And the extension of service that one needs to consider is what else is there that I can do for my client, i.e. the employers, to be able to add extra value. Mm-hmm. Now, in our own world, iIntro, we've created a service solution where we extend the service beyond candidate identification. So if I could just summarize it in 3 relevant points, what we offer our clients is to do the work instead of them, mm-hmm. better than them, and in a more cost-effective way than them. And we are being able to demonstrate and evidence that these 3 elements is what we do. So my advice to recruiters out there is to drop the transactional recruitment process. As a matter of fact, drop the word recruiter if you wish. We need to become management consultants in talent acquisition. And the service overall needs to be around these 3 relevant points: time, people, and money. And if you're able to adequately demonstrate to the client how you'll save their commercial downtime involved in the process by doing the work instead of them, doing it better than them by actually doing additional layers of assessment to make sure that you get the right person, and ultimately, as a consequence in the first and the second, ultimately you can evidence that you can reduce their overall cost to hire. I know what's going to happen. Clients will buy you. As a matter of fact, in our process, we have as high as 70% pitch to close rate. Mm-hmm. So in other words, if I'm given the opportunity to pitch to 10 clients, I will very likely close 7 out of the 10 on considerably higher fees and on a retained basis. And I'm saying this one not because I think so, it's because I know so. Just to step back a little bit, Grass Green is a company that we've set up with my dear friend and partner, Paul Hickey, 17 years ago. As a matter of fact, he was the one that invited me to recruitment. I didn't know anything about recruitment at the time. But in 2007, we established our firm. For the first 3 years, we operated entirely on a contingency basis. And in 2010, we started a process that fundamentally changed our business. Since January 2012, it took us 18 months to convert. We've become 100% retained, and we've continued to do so for the last 12 and a bit years. Our average fees, because of the service proposition that we offer, have increased quite dramatically. We're in the top 3% on fee percentages, i.e. 25% plus, in an industry where the average placement fee last year, I think it was 17.1%. So there is substantial benefits. Plus also, when you're working on a retained basis through offering a consultative service, you get paid not 1 in 8, but you get paid 1 in 1.
Well, yeah.
Absolutely. Does that make sense? Anybody? I don't know. I don't get any feedback.
It does. It does. It makes absolute sense. Geraldine's saying in the comments, it annoys her because there's no intelligence to that transactional type of recruitment. And I think clients then don't treat you like trusted advisors, but becoming a trusted advisor to an organization doesn't happen overnight, does it, Plum? And as you said, 18 months to transition from 100% contingent to 100% retained. And I think there's a lot of press out there, not necessarily the right press out there, about retainers and about how they're great for recruiters, but why would a client pay up front? And that's a very two-dimensional way of looking at a retainer, isn't it? You're looking at it from the wrong perspective there.
Well, to retain a client, or to hire them, or to be hired on a contingency basis, is a reflection of the client's perception of the service that you offer and the value of the service. Now, in sales, there are 3 distinct steps: know, like, and trust. In the good old days, you can pick up the phone and go and see a client, have a cup of coffee, and if they give you an hour or 45 minutes whilst you're having your coffee, you did all 3. You informed them what you do. Mm-hmm. You got them to like you, and hopefully then you can win your trust. Now, these days, this is almost impossible because there is so much competition and there is so much demand. So what we need to do is to not only just create the value proposition, but would need to communicate this value proposition. And communication of value proposition is done through multi-channel digital marketing these days. So you need to have presence, you need to have authority to be speaking about the topics. But if you think of it, I don't go to say to a client, well, I can either retain you or I can actually do contingency. We talk about the service, and we typically start, if we're going into the detail here, I'll try and be quick on that. But essentially, my communication with the client, after I've gone through the step of the know and the like, through interaction, I only speak with clients that I know like me. And the way to do it is through tracking the marketing that you are communicating out there. It could be the public marketing through social media, or it could be through emails and various other tools that we use. But essentially, I only speak to people that I know that have expressed some sort of positive feedback, either by way of clicking on links and downloading things, etc. So once you've gone through these first 2 steps, when I speak to a client, my positioning will be very simple. I'll say to the clients that my job as a management consultant in talent acquisition is to improve on these 3 subjects, etc., 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 which I've mentioned earlier. Then what I'll say to the clients is what I'd like to do is completely free of charge a recruitment process audit. And the audit, which we do with a very interesting tool called the Bad Hire Calculator, identifies the client's objectives, how important is this for them to achieve these objectives. And we're not talking how many roles do they need to recruit. We're talking about what is the commercial value of the recruitment that they're likely to undertake. And also, very important is to actually understand how important it is for the client to get it 100% right.
Yeah.
And are they okay if they get it only 70% right? Now, that's a good question.
Absolutely.
Most clients will say, no, I'd like it 100% right. So if you'd like it 100% right, what are the consequences if you only get it 70% right? So another food for thought. What happens next is I will demonstrate to the clients what's the elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room is that according to various stats available out there, in the UK, 20 to 30% of new hires will not make their 12 months anniversary. Now, allegedly, this costs UK industry £17 billion per annum.
Wow.
So if you are the employer and if you're recruiting with 70 to 80% accuracy, that means that the other 20 to 30% is costing you a major amount of money, probably the biggest cost, which clients do not realize. They just take it for granted. This is how it is.
Yeah.
You're okay to, if you recruit 10 people to keep 8 is good result. And actually, it is. Some are actually worse. In the US also, for the US listeners, for our audience in the US, according to Leadership IQ, the churn in 12 months is over 40%. That means that they only retain 60% accurate. Now, come to think of it, when you actually speak to a client like that, and you get them to understand that there is much more than just getting 3 people in the business or 10 people in the business with the option of 2 or 3 leaving. My proposition to the client is, with the bad hire calculator, I will demonstrate to them clearly what quantifiable loss they have by recruiting the way they recruit.
Yeah.
Once we've done it, then I can show them our version. And our version is very simple. Just to give you some stats here, iIntro is a service solution that has over 300 recruitment firms worldwide, nearing 350. We've worked with a substantial amount of people around the world, thousands of recruiters. These people have collectively billed in excess of £160 million of retained recruitment fees. And the common denominator is by using the same measure. The difference is between 70 to 80% and 96% is quite substantial.
Yeah.
And that quantifiable value is what we are able to demonstrate to our clients.
Yeah.
Now,
And I
I've
think
gone into the detail, by the way. So
No, I think it's great. I think I want to pick up on your point, that quantifiable value. I think demonstrable value as well, because you need to be able to demonstrate it to clients. That's where the platform comes in. They can actually see. You can point to the parts of the platform that are going to make the pain of their problems go away and help them to, reduce downtime, save them money, get their retention rates to 96%. I just want to come over. We've got another few questions, but a couple have come in as well. So I hope you don't mind, Plum. We're going to just move comments for a session. So James, thank you very much for your comments as well. James O'Brien, still here, even when he's not here. Can't leave us alone, you see. Jason is saying, can retained search be done on all levels of roles? Do you think? Because again, I think there's this perception, and we're not just here to talk about retained. It's just that when you're working in this way, where you are providing a full solution service to a client that is enabling, save them time, save them money, improve their new employee retention rate, you're moving to a model where it is exclusive, and you are asking for a percentage of that fee on commencement of the campaign, because that's just how you're going to work. So I think sometimes the word retainer, recruiters seem to think that they're paying you up front for people you're going to send them, whereas I think it can be more fluid than that. So do you think that you could work in a retained way with any level of role, do you think? Or do you think it works better in some sectors, or maybe certain levels of job role?
Yeah, I mean, retained is typically been the domain of senior search. That's the perception that the clients have about retained.
Yeah.
But I'll give you some examples. In our own firm, our sweet spot of salaries is possibly 80, 90,000. Having said that, though, we engage clients. As I said to you, we work 100% retained.
Mm-hmm.
We engage with some clients on lower level roles. So to give you an example, and we do it through many service provider contract approach. So, I mean, this is our choice in our own firm. We won't do one role, but if the client has 3-4 roles at 30,000-40,000 pounds, then we'll take it. The main concept here is that the methodology that enables the client to reduce their commercial downtime, to increase retention and decrease overall cost to hire is the key.
Mm-hmm.
When you explain to the client the concept, ultimately the clients will appreciate the service and want to buy it. And if you're outside the 90% of the recruitment population that offers the same thing, and you manage to demonstrate to the client quantifiably that they'll be better off, I mean, it's common sense.
Mm-hmm.
That say yes to you. Obviously, there may be some negotiation of the stuff that you need to do for the client. For senior roles, we do 3-dimensional assessments. We do behavioral profiling, key competency assessments. We provide different enabling tools for the client to have a wonderful experience throughout the process. But bottom line is, the methodology is what wins the business. It's the fact that you're adding value that no other recruiter, so very few, can offer to the client. That's the angle. That's why we are so successful. So I just want to back up a little bit, because it seems that I'm talking a lot about what we specifically do.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, my message to everybody is very simple. Whether you speak with us or you don't, that's your choice. Whether you want to stay on recruitment and choose your transactional approach, beware of the fact that this will cost you money in time and possibly your job eventually, because technology will eat our lunch if we continue to do the same thing. However, if you want to maintain meaningful relationship with your clients, you need to change.
Mm-hmm.
And the change is, what value add proposition can I offer my clients where I can save them time, help them with the people in accuracy of selection, and decrease their overall cost to hire. That's my view. Everything else is, forgive me for saying, but fluff.
Yeah, it's semantics. I think that's a really good point. Paul Dennis in the comments has mentioned a really great point. Similarly, along those lines, primary recruitment is a simple process. It's managing expectations and showing over value. It's just moved. There we are. Showing the value of the service as well, which I think is really important. Making sure you execute your proposition using the right tools as well. I think those tools are important. He said he's remodeled the way contract recruitment is sold. It's working really well. Everything else is retained, which again I think is a really good point. I want to get onto AI in a minute, because I think that's a really good point, and that's a load of the questions that we've had for this session actually have been around AI, because you were just saying about, you know, technology will eat our lunch if we don't improve. And, you know, we've talked about the platform and things like that as well. I think one of the things that's very interesting about this is when you evolve your business, when you move your business forwards and you make a choice, because it's our choice, there are businesses, so it's our choice. We choose to create a service that is going to elevate us in terms of our value proposition and the perception that clients have over us. Some of our existing clients won't come with us, will they? And some companies won't get this either, because they've been conditioned over many, many years by, you know, transactional recruitment to believe that transactional recruitment is the only way. And I suppose it is, isn't it? We've kind of normalized it with clients. So do you think that as recruiters, we have a challenge there to go out into the industry and kind of change clients' perception of what good recruitment looks like?
I get the point. Think of it this way. What's happening at this moment in time with recruitment is inevitable. So in the bell curve, you've got early adopters or the innovators, then you've got early adopters, then you've got majority adopters, and then you've got the laggers. Mm-hmm. This is exactly the same thing that was going to happen with our clients. So if you are fast forward, you'll be able to pick up the good ones, the smart people that will come and work with you. And whether someone will be left behind, well, that's their choice. But the sooner you starting to adopt quality service, and when I say quality service, it needs to be specific, because it's not just about dressing it up with enablers. You need to fundamentally change the service solution. And think of it, what I've said earlier, well, for the audience, changing the solution by actually taking the service beyond identifying candidates. That's magic. It's the most important thing. You need to do more for your clients. When you're starting to do more for your clients and you save them time, help them with the people and reduce the cash, and you can evidence that, ultimately, they starting to trust you to the point of where next time when they have a recruitment need, they will not go to the market to find the cheapest deal. They'll only come to you because you're the only one that offers that sort of service. But it needs to be evidence-based. It needs to be demonstrable value that you can show to the client. And I mean, I'm going to push this one here, but we know how to do it. And there are people attending to recruitment that are clients of iIntro. I've just noticed one or two here. They can tell you, quantifying the value for the client changes the proposition. The clients would want to buy the service, even though you're charging more money for it, even though you're asking them to engage with you in a different way. The simple reason is that Common Sense Corner, they understand the logic. They want to try the service. You give them the opportunity that once they've tried it. Oh, by the way, there is another benefit. Once you're starting to work with a client that have tried your process, you're locking your competition out. They don't go anywhere else. They continue coming to you. And for some business people that are here and understand residual value of a client, when you actually win a client, well, we've got 4 steps which we teach in our Retained Recruitment Academy, as Joe will know. You've got a prospect, that's everybody. You've got a customer that's bought once from you. They've got a client when you've bought a few times from you, but they're still not locked in. The most valuable one is the advocate. The advocates do not buy from anywhere else. They only buy from you. And imagine if you've got just a handful of advocates. Now, you don't need that much work. It'll all be retained. It'll all be on fair fees value. And it'll all be done in a way that the clients will be pleased and vice versa. But, I mean, advocates are also, you need to, once you've won them, you need to validate the advocacy all the time. Clients need to know. Otherwise, another shiny thing will show off a few years later and they'll just jump on it. So you need to create these relationships. You need to nurture them. You need to support them. But that's another topic. It
is. And we're probably going to need to have you back to talk about that. Now, we've got a few minutes left. So we're running to 1:45 today. So we've got a 45-minute session because we knew that Plowman we would not be able to squeeze it into 30 minutes. We've got a couple more questions. We are going to run a trailer. Hopefully in a minute, you will have seen it pop up a couple of times already during the show. So if you did want to book a demo, if you do want to have a look at the iIntro platform, then you can book a demo. You can call our team there. You can see up there in the sky. You can find Plowman on LinkedIn. I would definitely find Plowman on LinkedIn if you want to have a conversation with him. Plowman, you are a very open person. You're a very welcoming person. You'll have a conversation with anybody, won't you, about this? Because I think a lot of businesses are slightly fearful about making this transition.
It's easy. Well, I can say now it's easy because I've done it. And the last so many years, I mean, it's amazing. I'll share this one with you. In 2010, before we started our transition, our average placement fee was 16% and about £7,000. Our average placement fee last year is 3 times bigger. And we're winning business on 25-30%. Now, we recruit some senior roles, but most of the roles are, as I've said to you, sweet spot is the normal salaries that people basically get engaged. What also happens, I mean, anyway, another story. We need to leave some for more questions. And if I just summarize what we've said, don't think of the steps and the little things that you need to do to fix things that you're currently doing. Change.
Yes.
Change is my message. And if you want to know how, if you want to know the little things, come to me. There is your retained call up there, and I'll be glad to speak with you. Or you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm very easy to find out. Plamen Ivanov with a double F. I'm the only one, I think.
I think you are. Well, you should be. If you're not Plamen, then you should be. I 100% agree. For those who I know, we've gone and hopefully we've invited quite a lot of you because we've had a big show today. We've invited quite a lot of you on LinkedIn. Again, you can come and find me on LinkedIn as well. So a couple of things. We've got one last question because I want to talk about technology, Plamen, and I want to talk about AI and how you think that AI is going to change and or challenge the way that we recruit.
Well, one of the two will happen. It'll either take us out of business, and that's for transactional recruitment, because regardless of how you dress it up, AI is faster, cost-effective, and better. Or it can enable you as a facilitating tool to provide a quicker, more meaningful consultative service to your clients. But if you just wait, you will find out that some jobs will starting to be lost to AI as opposed to going across and doing something different. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Once again, it's a common sense answer. I'm not going to go into the detail because that's a big topic. And I personally think it is an enabler that will help people do better.
Yeah, I do.
Service.
If used deftly and strategically, you know, and in a clever way. And I think that takes time and it takes research. How can you use it? And I don't think technology is going to wipe recruiters out. Not if you are, I mean, it might wipe recruiters out. But you were saying earlier on about, you know, management. We become the management consultants who specialize in retention and recruitment. We become the management consultants that specialize in talent acquisition for an organization. So one more final question, which is top tips. I want you to give top tips in a minute for any business that's out there that's listening that would, or listening to the recording, of course, that would like to know how they can begin, because every journey starts with a single step. You've got to take the first step. So how would they be able to begin with this? Before we do, I know we've had loads of people on today, so before we lose anybody, 13th of June is a massive day for us at iIntro. Firstly, we've got another Retained Recruiter show. So we've actually got Gemma Bevan from Social Gems. She's been on before. It was one of our most popular shows. You may have trumped that now, Plamen, but you never know. But Jem was one of our most popular shows, and she's going to talk about everything, how to unlock LinkedIn for your recruitment business, so how to use it to build brand, build reputation, and generate those inbound leads. So that's on the 13th of June, same time, same place. Also on the 13th of June is the launch of our Retained Recruiter Bootcamp. So it's a 3-session program. It's open as well. Anybody is welcome. You're very welcome to contact us for more details. And a lot of it is what we've been talking about here today. You know, how can I take my desk or my business and how can I transition it to retained? How can I go out and how can I identify really good clients? How can I win retained business? And then how can I complete that retained business? So you said before, Plamen, so that we're starting to get these repeat clients, you know, these advocates of our organization. So had to get that out before we finish. Final question, Plamen. If we've got a lot of people who are sat here, maybe haven't made the jump yet into improving their value proposition, what would your top tips be for a business?
Wow. Get in touch with me because it's not a simple answer. But bottom line is, you need to be able to quantify, not just to say it. Whatever service you offer, you need to be able to quantify it. You need to be able to evidence it. And otherwise, it's just another blah, blah story. And clients are fed up of listening to stories, especially if they've heard them before. So be different, be daring, and be first. Commit to excellence. Excellence. Premium service solutions. Don't compete with machines, because they're faster than you, cheaper than you, and We'll do better. By the way, I've seen a lot of questions coming in here. Guys, I'm sorry we've not been able to address all these. Could I please ask everybody that's still listening here or will be listening to the recording, get in touch with me and send me your questions. I'll answer every single one of them, but I need to have the time to do it.
Yes, absolutely. Which we just don't have. We've simply not got the time today. There's a million other things I think that we could talk about. I think there's been a lot of really good comments as well. Thank you ever so much, everyone who's put their comments in there. As with anything, even though we're in this show, Plum, and we're at the pointy end of it, there's so much experience in that comment section that I think even just if people went and had a read through that, connect with each other, you know. I think recruitment can be a very lonely and isolating place, particularly if you're running your own business. It can be very difficult to, you know, have a network of people to speak to. So I think that, you know, the comments are great, and do get in touch with us, you know, even if it's just to have a conversation with us. Right. Well, we should wrap up, I suppose. Plyman, it's been a pleasure having you. Thank you so much for coming on and giving us half an hour, well, 45 minutes of your time to tell us more about it. Lewis is saying, you know, be different, be daring, and be first, which I just think is a great thing for us to leave it on. Plyman, any final comments from you before we wrap up for the session?
Be relentless. Never
Be
give
relentless.
up.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Do be relentless, you know. And I think when you're passionate about what you do and you're flying the flag for it, you're championing it, you can't help but be relentless.
Joe, I use this one on a regular basis. I ask people the question, do you know what's the difference between the big shot and the little shot? Well, the big shot is actually a little shot that kept on shooting.
Yeah.
So keep going, guys. And look for advice. Advice is important. Otherwise, trying to discover the world is a long and lonely process and full of frustrations. So reach out for advice. I'm here to help.
Yeah, 100%, as we all are here. So, Plyman, look, it's been an absolute privilege. Thank you so much for coming on. We will have you on again. The next time James leaves us for a day, we will have you on, or all three of us. Wouldn't that be fun? Thank you ever so much for watching. As I said, we're back on the 13th of June. We've got a session with Gemma Bevan on LinkedIn Unlocked. That's going to be fantastic. Please do get in contact. Have a fantastic week. So it's goodbye from me. Plyman, thank you so much for your time. Have a great week,
everyone.
Goodbye
from me. All the best,
care.
everybody. Take care.